Hello. Recently, I received a comment from someone asking for a request on how to make a sliding door triggered by a proximity prompt. I thought I'd make a video on it because other people might have the same issue. The stuff that I'm going to be covering in this video I haven't covered in my tutorials just yet, but I'll get around to it eventually. So, if you're okay with that, let's start by adding in some parts. Oh boy, how do you make a door now? Alright, that's one wall. That's two walls. It's a big frame. Okay. Okay, this is our very good looking doorway. Oh yeah, and then we also need to add in a proximity prompt into the door. Just gonna search for it. Here we go. And I'm also going to rename this part here to door. There we go. Okay, there are two ways to do this next part. If you want the door to open and close to all players, use a regular script. But if you don't want it to affect all player screens and just one player, if you want it to be local, I should say, put it in a local script. I'm going to be doing it in a local script for this tutorial. So I'll just come into starter player and then starter player scripts and then create a local script. Okay, I'm going to create a variable for the door. A variable for the proximity prompt. Oops. Now the comment said that they wanted the door to slide. So to do this, I'm going to use something called tween service. Tween service animates different properties. So this can be things like vectors, colors, and numbers. To get it in the script, create a variable, call it something like TS, then do game, get service, and then quotations, and then tween service. I use tween service all the time, and it's worth looking more into. In order to use tween service, we need to create what's called a tween info. I'm just going to call it TI, tweeninfo.new. And the only things that really matter here are the time, and then the rest of it's just kind of optional. So let's say we want it to take 3 seconds to complete the sliding animation. This easing style here is what it looks like when it's animating. So you can make it look really smooth, you can make it look choppy, you can make it bounce back and forth. The one that I'm going to be using, I think quartz would look okay. And then the easing direction is where it applies the easing style to. So for this, we'll just say out. Easing style dot out. Sorry, easing direction dot out. And then it's the amount it repeats. Then if we put in like 1 or something, and then it reverses, and the delay time, that's not really necessary, so we can leave all that out. Okay, once we have those two things, we can use tween service to create a tween. I'm actually going to call this tween open, so that we know that we're opening the door. And then we can play another one when we're closing the door. So then the tween is TS, and then use create. Instance means part, so we'll put in the door because we want to animate that. The tween info, which we already have created here. Then it asks for a property table, which is going to be the property that we want to animate. So the new position, we want to be the door's original position. And then if we head back to the base plate here, and move it over 1, 2, 12. Then we want to subtract 12 on the z-axis from this. Also, before we move on, this is a table. So if you really wanted to, you could animate the color or the rotation, just whatever you want, really. We only want to move the door right now, so we'll just keep it as a position. Then let's make it play the tween, or play the animation when the proximity prompt is triggered. You don't really need this player in here, but I'll have it there anyway. Tween open, which is the tween that we've created here. Then we want to play it. Okay, let's go ahead and test it out. Hello, Editor Crimson's here. I made a couple of errors in the script. Firstly, it should be vector3.new, not vector3 and then the parentheses immediately afterwards. If this particular vector doesn't work, try playing around with it. So try switching stuff to the x-axis or to the z-axis or turning numbers negative. Eventually it'll work. Hopefully. Also, make sure your parts are anchored, because if they are not, everything will fall apart. Okay, bye now. Please work. There we go. So there are two issues with that. One is that the door doesn't go back into place once you open it. And also, the proximity prompt is enabled for all of that. So to fix the door not closing, we can create another tween and then close the door after a certain amount of time has passed. And since we're declaring this at the start, not when the actual proximity prompt is triggered, we can just use the original door's position. So when this plays, we also want to make sure the proximity prompt is disabled. So we have this property called enabled, and then we can just set that to false. Now, even though it plays the animation here, it doesn't wait the 3 seconds for it to complete. So we have to manually do that ourselves. So we can just add in await 3. And then we also want to give the player some time to go into the door. So we can add like 2 seconds, and then we can play the closing tween. Tween close, play. And then we wait 3 seconds for this to complete. And then we can enable the proximity prompt again. You can combine these two waits if you want into 5 seconds, but I like having them separate, just so that I know that this is for the tween, and then we wait 2 seconds before playing the close animation. So now when we run it, we can open the door, and it's going to wait 2 seconds, and it's going to close the door again. And then it'll enable the proximity prompt again. So we can do that another time if we really want to. Pretty nice. If you rotate it though, you might have to play around with it because it's sliding on a different axis, so just change one of the values in the vector 3 and then hope it works. But yeah, that's it. Pretty simple, pretty easy to understand, which is good. If you have any more requests, please leave them in the comments below. Hope this worked well. Bye bye.